lovable Vice Mayor Olawan. Thank you very much, Vice, for joining me during our visit sa Davao last week. We had a very, very constructive and productive meeting in Davao City. Our fellow public servants, Team Baguio, good morning. You have 1 week to memorize yung Baguio March, yung Baguio Hymn, and yung Cordillera Hymn. Naikot yung mata ko kanina. Maraming nagpapanggap na alam nilang kantahin. Anyway, the reason why I decided to talk to you today is for the past 3 weeks, naghihintay akong bigyan ako ng pagkakataon para makapagsalita and to render a report on our visit sa China. And it was an amazing visit. It was an eye-opener. For the simple reason that napakalayo na pala ng China sa Pilipinas. Ibig ko sabihin, ang advancement nila is simply fascinating and amazing. I remember 25 years ago, when a friend of mine went to China, there was a family, Chinese family in Davao, who adopted me as a member of the family. Ang sabi nila, yung lugar ng Guangzhou, halos ganito lang sa atin. Ganito lang sa mas maganda pa nga Makati. And if you see Guangzhou now, and the city of Nanjing, eh talagang napakalayo na pala nila in terms of progress, in terms of the quality of life of our residents there, of their residents there. Hindi na rin kayo pwede magdala ng pera doon. Wala na nagdadala ng pera doon. Lahat ng pambili nila, dala-dala lang nila yung cellphone nila. Pati sa palengke, everything is paid through their cellphone. That's because of technology. May mga lugar din doon na pag wala kang dalang cellphone, wala ka rin dalang pera, yung mukha mo na lang ang dadalhin mo doon. Hindi dahil yung mukha mo, i-scan ng kanilang technology, yung tinatawag natin facial recognition software. At doon pa lang, lalabas na kung may pera ka sa bangko. O mukha kang pera, wala kang pera. Can you just imagine a world, a city with that kind of technology? I remember when I was in Singapore 12 years ago, and they were bragging about yung kanilang cellphone daw, yun na yung pagbayad nila sa kanilang mga utilities, sa kanilang mga public transport system. But it never took off. But in China, in just a matter of 5 years, it took off. And that's because of the determination and conviction of their city officials. Sometimes we wonder, may pag-asa pa ba ang syudad ng Baguio with all these issues that we're facing right now? We're talking about environment, we're talking about waste, we're talking about our traffic, we're talking about our water system, our deteriorating air quality. But you know what? I read an article about Israel. Ang sabi ni President Netanyahu, 60 years ago, Israel was insignificant. It has only 650 inhabitants. It has no economy. It has only one industry, and that is the manufacture of firearms and weapons. Almost 80% of its land are desert. Many of its constituents are unskilled. They are disunited. But look at Israel now. Look at Israel now. We're better off than Israel. Far, far better off than Israel. So makikita nyo, napakalaki na pwede natin gawin sa siyudad ng Baguio. And besides, our people in the city of Baguio, we have a very diverse society. And that's probably one of our strengths. We have a lot of experiences from the different sectors. We have a very good set of public servants in City Hall. When I was campaigning, sabi no, every time I ask people, are you satisfied with the way you are being served by the people of City Hall? Surprisingly, ang sinasabi nila is, no. And then when I became mayor, I finally realized na hindi naman totoo yung sinasabi pala nila. Because I see people here working really hard, smiling, serving the people of Baguio. But again, probably it's something that we need to resolve. Bakit ang perception ng tao dito sa Baguio is they're not properly served? Parang yung isang restaurant na sinasabi niya lagi na masarap yung pagkain ko, pero pag tinanong mo yung mga kliyente o customers, sabi nila hindi naman. So, these are the things that we need to resolve. Probably we are not giving the right message to the people. But I see a lot of potential in City Hall. A lot of future leaders in City Hall. Young public servants who are willing to do what is right for the city. And if you notice, during the last appointment of assistant department heads, I decided to choose. I do not know them. Hindi ko naman sila kilala. But I vetted and I asked their background. But one thing that struck me most is because they are innovative, they're dynamic, and they are future leaders. They have that potential to become leaders. And so I chose them to become assistant department heads. What we need in City Hall now are young, dynamic, innovative, idealistic future leaders of the city of Baguio. Again, I go back. What happened in Israel? Why the transformation in Israel? And let me give you this analogy that was propounded by an Indian guru by the name of Ranada Swami. And he said, there is an American-Indian analogy that basically lets us understand what habit is all about. I'm talking about habit. He said that deep in our heart, there are two dogs, two kinds of dogs, the bad dog and the good dog. And he said that these two dogs are constantly fighting each other. And who's going to win? It is the good dog or the bad dog. Either the good dog or the bad dog. It depends kung sino ang pinapakain natin sa kanila. It depends on the people who are feeding them. If we show compassion, if we show love, if we show understanding, if we show concern for other people, we're looking at the good dog. But if we are full of aggression, full of ignorance, if we are full of anger, grief, we are feeding the bad dog. Many times we say we like the good dog. But surprisingly, people are more inclined to feed, unwittingly to feed the bad dog. Because it's easier to feed the bad dog. Being unselfish is so difficult for a person to do. Sometimes we think of a bad dog as sort of a bed that's easy to get into, a soft bed, a very nice bed that it's easy to get into, but easily difficult to get out. Now, I want you to ponder and think about it. Are we going to feed the good dog or the bad dog? Israel, for example, decided to feed the good dog. This time, I leave that to you. It's up to you. If you ask me, what am I going to feed? Definitely, I would say, I'm going to feed that good dog. Sa inyo lang, good morning po sa inyo.